the idea of the guest experience not having to do with the slides specifically, the actual rides, is also something new. And so it's really just like adapting these kind of new, more modernized ideologies. And then two, also just like, I think just keeping an open mind and seeing what's out in the industry. What are the other parks doing? I think if you're involved in the industry, I feel like you can learn a lot from other operators and from what their winnings and what's not working for them. And even just, Waterpark Day is a great example of that at IAPA.
Well, and you said something that was interesting. They're promoting on the Weather Channel, but that's not necessarily where their customer is, right? Like, who watches the Weather Channel anymore?
Right.
Welcome to Live with Sondra. We are officially living in the experience economy. It's no longer enough to build something big. It has to be immersive, emotional, shareable, cinematic, and measurable. The destinations that understand this shift, they're defining the next decade of entertainment and attractions. Today, we're talking about what happens when visibility, strategy, infrastructure, and revenue collide, and how that collision is reshaping the attractions around the world. And there's no better person to have this conversation with than Alex Ojeda. Alex is one of the most recognized creators in experiential entertainment. When the world's boldest water parks open, his lens is the first to capture the story. He's a Forbes 30 Under 30 honoree and a Time 100 creator, shaping how global audiences discover destinations. But what makes Alex different isn't just reach, it's his operational understanding. He's not just filming thrills, he's analyzing guest behavior, revenue flow, emotional impact, and long-term positioning. Welcome, Alex, to Live with Sondra. Well, hey, Alex.
How's it going?
It's going good. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here today. And one of the things I'd like to start with today, just because I think maybe there's a little mystery around like who you are and what you do. And for me, because I've been binge watching
Okay.
since we met at the IAPA Waterpark Day.
Okay.
But I think the biggest question I have for you, just as somebody who's watched what you've been producing and what you've been doing, is that origin story. Like, how did you get started in this? Why water parks? Why attractions? Why this industry? That's one of my favorite questions I always like to ask guests when I first get started with them, because I feel like so many people have a really cool story on how they got here.
Yeah, for sure. I think in the industry too, like everybody has their cool, like why, like where the passion spawns from. So when I was a kid, I was born in Mexico City, and my parents, I have three brothers, so there's four of us. They came to Austin, Texas to study at the University of Texas, and coming from a new country, also having, three other kids while in college, we never really went on like big vacations or anything. I think really we just go back home, or there was no like all the crazy stuff you see on my channels now. And when my father first started working, he won a raffle for a cruise. It was like $5,000. And so we did like a 3-night cruise. We flew to Orlando, and that was our very first like experience. And obviously on the cruise ship, we did like water slides, and we went to do all the thrilling excursions and all the beach clubs and all of that fun. And so from that, my parents saw how much fun we had on that trip, and it kind of like inspired their American dream, because they're like, oh, this is not cheap, and we want to work hard to basically give our kids these experiences. And so we ended up doing like 15 cruises from the age of like when I was 12 to
Wow.
like when I turned 18. Yeah, so it's just always been a part of the family. So industry wise, like that's where the love spawns from, is really from seeing my parents like and what that did for our family, having those shared experiences. And so now everything I do on social media is kind of like to inspire other families to kind of have that same experience.
I love that. I love that because that's kind of how I started too.
Oh, really?
In some ways, my mother was she was a tour guide for exchange students. And
Oh,
so
okay.
they couldn't really afford a ticket to Disneyland, but her boss used to be like, you can take the kids with you. And so we would go, and I just knew as a young kid, like, I love this. And
Yeah.
these were my greatest and best memories I had with my family. So I love that part of your story. I know when we were kind of talking before you came on, your grandmother is a big part of your motivation, inspiration. Tell
For
me a little bit
sure.
about that.
Yeah, yeah. So, when my grandfather passed away, my grandma moved from Mexico in with us, and at the same time, the game Fortnite was trending like crazy,
Yeah,
and my brothers would spend hours playing mindlessly, and I would go to them like, "Hey, look at all these streamers that are doing social media and streaming. You should go and do this." And being little spoiled kids, they were just like, no, they didn't really care. But my brother would send the gameplay because he was really good at it to his friends, like if he won the game or something. And so I don't know why, but at the time I was also very fascinated by the meme pages because those were very trendy on Instagram.
sure,
And I was just fascinated by like, hey, there's someone creating the memes and creating the account and running it and growing all these followers. And so that interested me. And so then I was like, maybe I'll create my own meme page. And so I saw an opportunity to like, because there were people making Fortnite memes. I was like, what if I took my grandma, put a headset on her, and edited the video to make it look like she was playing it? So I would get my brother's gameplay, take my grandma, and have her commentate over it. And there was no one really doing this. This is before this is on Instagram before Reels was a thing. You could post video, but it wasn't called Reels. And so we started posting. That first video got like 200,000 views. Um,
wow,
and that was like trendy at that time, reposted the video tagging her. And so I basically just started making more memes of my grandma, doing Fortnite dances, everything Fortnite. And then I saw ads for TikTok. When TikTok came out, threw the videos up there. And it was like another overnight virality on TikTok. And then I was like, okay, well, now I can make my own page. So I did the same
sure,
thing, just doing trends, lip singing, dancing with my grandma. And then that turned into like getting my teachers involved and my friends at school or my parents or siblings. And at the time, like TikTok, is the start of short form video, I feel like. And so it was took off a ton because there was not as many creators as you see now. And so I just started on TikTok, really just growing my audience there.
that's super cool. I mean, I love that this industry is so much about family, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
and then what you've done and been able to accomplish was so much about family. And you mentioned you have what, 4 brothers?
Yeah. Three
3
brothers.
brothers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
4 of you all together. I come from a family of 3 girls or 4 girls.
Oh,
A
nice.
girl, the complete opposite. But
Complete opposite. Yeah.
but that's awesome. That's awesome that your grandma let you do that.
Yeah, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I feel like she was, had nothing really else to do, so she, and I think she enjoyed it too. It kept her a little bit
That's awesome.
occupied. But yeah, so it is really cool experience with her, and then obviously getting to see that virality was a lot of fun. And then I learned a lot from running her stuff that I applied to my content, and so I was able to, understand like how to make a viral video like very early on. And
That's really cool. Well, speaking of viral videos, because I know that like there's some pretty maybe common misconceptions about what you do in attractions, because it's not just about writing slides,
right,
right? Because there's a science to what you do.
for sure.
And, I'm curious maybe what the biggest misconception maybe that you want to challenge for the industry with regards to what you do and how you do it would be. Does that question make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I think a little bit. I mean, obviously, the off the bat, the most like I guess stereotypical one is like that. It's just like, oh, an influencer getting all these free trips and just kind of living on vacation. Which obviously, I genuinely love the industry and I love like all the places I get to go to,
Sure.
but at the same time, it is like it's a lot of work, and it just so happens that the work is fun, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I nerd out about content creation, and then I nerd out about like specifically the water parks, but also attractions as a whole. And then I love the impact I get to make, right? It's inspiring others. And so, um, really it's just that, that it's a whole lot more than just like, hey, I'm on vacation or you see me traveling the world. Like, yes, it is actually that epic and it is a lot of fun, but it's not that I'm just like living on vacation essentially.
I mean, I get that because I also travel to a lot of places. And when I leave my kids at home, they're always like, you said you were working, but I saw you on a roller coaster. It's like, well, yeah, that's part of the job, right?
Yeah,
That's the perk of the job that we get to do.
for
But,
sure.
one of the things that I really think is interesting because we met at IAPA's Waterpark Day, the first one that happened this last year. And you got on stage and talked a lot about marketing, which is a big part of what you do, right? Helping these parks not only understand how to better market them, but also you have the skill of making sure that they can get the most visibility. What is some maybe And I'm just jumping right in because I think the
Yeah.
audience that watches this, they're operators, they're people who want to learn from you. What would you say is like one thing that they could consider doing today, if not working with you, right?
Right.
That would help them to get more of that exposure online, to be more visible to the audiences that they want to reach. Because I think, like, even for my business, that's a really difficult thing to know that right audience.
Yeah. I think it's understanding, number one, that everybody in the world, it doesn't matter if you're the most busy person or you're just like lazy at home, everybody's swiping. So
Right.
if you think in like the industry, right, even the GM who's like super busy running the parks and running around in the summer, he's still at night swiping reels and, sending it to a friend. And I'm sure you've even today probably gotten reels that your friends have sent you or TikToks or videos. And so it's really just understanding that that is the number one way for shareability is so big. Not only that people are swiping, but they're also swiping, they're seeing something and they're sharing it. So as long as you understand that and you have an importance on that, then it's like, okay, now I need to figure out a plan to actually do that every single day. And it's like every single day that you're not sharing something is a missed opportunity for someone to watch a piece of content and share it to a friend. And so when it comes to like a water park or attractions business, it's like that's a missed opportunity for me to see a video on a place and then send it to a friend like, hey, we need to go there, right? Or someone in your audience or your target demographic, or even if there's somewhere else, they may know somebody or hey, we need to check this place out, and they're going to send it to a friend. And so it's really just like, hey, once you understand that, what can you do already without doing any drastic change? Like maybe there's someone internally that can start creating content. Even if it's not good, it's better to have something than to have
Yeah,
nothing.
100%. And I love what you said about everybody swiping, because
Yeah.
it's so true. Actually, just yesterday, I had somebody ask me, they said, I want to send you this reel, but I didn't want you to think I was sending too many reels. I'm like, reels are my love language.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people feel that way, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
send me the reels.
For sure.
So 100%, you're creating content for these attractions that is going to be shareable, first of all. I mean, if they're creating it, they want it to be something that can be shareable,
Right.
right? And even I even shared one of yours. I was afraid you were going to make me do what was it, a brain rot challenge?
Oh.
You'd be hitting the button on the first try. On the first question with me. But I did share that because I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Something, shared that with my family, and I thought that was pretty funny that you are doing all these very creative things. Like, even though we were talking in the car on the way here, the video of the hide and seek.
Oh yeah.
Do you mind if I ask, like, how did you come up with that idea? And if there's any way that somebody who is running an operation or marketing a park could maybe do something similar with regards to what was the biggest impact that it had for that park that was pictured in this video.
Right. Yeah. So obviously, like my content strategy has always been like I'm kind of the weatherman reviewing a destination or like showcasing you the weather. But in this case, it's like I'm showing you these awesome places. And there's a lot of trust in me as an authority in that space. And I think as I evolve, I want to test out different content formats and things like that. And so it just happens that on YouTube, challenges are very popular. So if you look at like the number one creator, Mr. Beast, right?
Sure.
He's always doing some fun challenge, whether it could be a hide and seek. He's done those a few times, or just going above and beyond and doing some crazy challenges. And so I was like, okay, thinking of like out of the box ideas, kind of like you brought up the brain rot quiz, or sometimes I'm mic'd up as a lifeguard. Like those are things that are not necessarily Alex Ojeda showcasing a destination. And so seeing that hide and seek was a popular format on YouTube and a lot of creators are doing that, I was like, okay, how can I take that and build something that my audience would still resonate with and that's also super entertaining? And so I was like, oh, okay, I have some friends that are open. They live in the Vegas area. And so they were like, yeah, we get a group together and film this hide and seek. And so, yeah, really, I have great relations with the people at the park and let them know, like, hey, I have this idea, would love to do it. It actually was right before WWA, which was really fun. And so we filmed it. Obviously, it's a great entertaining piece. It's less like, hey, check out this water park. You could come visit. Here's everything you need to know before you visit. It's more like, here's an entertaining piece of content. And so it's more that the park is kind of more the set. So it's not necessarily like the greatest, like, hey, people are watching this, now they want to visit the park. But anyone who does watch that can go to the park is probably going to go visit now. And then two, it's also something great. Anytime someone searches up the park, that video pops up. And now they're seeing like, hey, this big established creator is visiting this park, so it brings a level of credibility to the park. And then two, obviously that was a very fun video, so it makes it look like this is a lot of fun. Obviously, we're not trying to promote like, hey, go play hide and seek in this water park.
Sure.
Um, but it's great. It's actually a great tool for their recurring guests or their season pass holders who are big fans of the brand. They're now watching or content on the park. They see that it's a lot of fun to see how the park's involved in something like that.
And I do feel like the park was showcased in that video, right? Because you get to see so many different parts of the park, parts that you're not even spending a lot of time in this particular video.
For
You're
sure.
in the ride.
Yeah.
People are hiding in some of the tallest towers, right? So I felt like it was really cool because you kind of got that behind the scenes look that you don't necessarily get
Definitely.
as somebody who's just going to parks and as a guest or a visitor. So I thought that was really a creative and really cool part of that video. And then even like the storage closets,
Yeah, yeah.
there was that one gal that you couldn't find. I don't know. I knew she was going to win.
Really? Okay.
Well, when she started packing all this stuff in.
Yeah, yeah. They were really hidden. That was a lot of fun to film, definitely too. It took me a lot longer to find everybody. You would think that I was like, oh, I'm a water park pro, like I'll
Yeah.
find everybody, but it was. I think we budgeted like I was like, oh, I'm gonna find everybody in the first 30 minutes, but I think it ended up taking like way longer. So we were there in the heat, like running up and down the
Yeah, Las
slides, and
Vegas heat.
yeah, yeah. So it was a lot of fun to film.
Yeah, that's a really cool one. And I think like what you said is that if parks can get creative so that there's a piece that nurtures their and entertains their
Yeah,
season pass holders, I love that. And also being able to have just this content that's creative. I love that you're modeling and mimicking after things that are working like Mr. Beast.
yeah.
And then anybody can do this, really, right?
Right.
It's just they should do it with you.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I think the two biggest, like, especially when I'm working with parks, is like we have two different main content angles. Like one is how are we making the park look like the greatest travel destination ever, whether it's like a small mom and pop or a more established water park. We're trying to make it look like, the Maldives influencer, like
Yeah.
tropical, like wow. So you're sharing that video with the intention like this place looks so like desirable. I want to go visit. That's when you're saying it to a friend. And then we're also making content that's more entertainment driven. That's like, hey, this place looks so fun. We need to go visit. And it's not only affecting now, like we need to go visit. It's also like, hey, this place looks so cool. I want to go work there. Or this place, the culture looks
Right.
so fun. I want to go work there. So it also aids with like staffing,
Yes.
also the internal culture, both like you mentioned, like the recurring guests that, people come year over year, or people who haven't been in a while, but they have been to they're fans of the park. They now have stuff that they can engage with, they can share. And so we're building like this, like it's just an avenue for the park to have shareability,
Yeah.
which without posting, there's no shareability, right?
Yeah. Right. Well, I'm curious with regards to not just the shareability, but this content that's being created. If a park's creating this content or they're working with you to create the content, what are some of the unique ways that you see them using it besides just posting? I mean, are they sending this out to, because we talked about nurturing the guests that are already there, but also I know that we're seeing a shift where people are starting to search for their where they're going to travel to, which parks they're going to go to.
Yeah,
And I know YouTube especially is probably, I mean, isn't search for on YouTube greater than that of Google for these things?
for sure. Yeah, and then it's actually the number one, like any attraction business. It's the number one, like no one's on YouTube. They're always on like TikTok or
Yeah.
Instagram. And Facebook's obviously number one, especially in water parks, right? Everybody has a Facebook page, but YouTube is often always overlooked. And SEO has grown so much, especially now. Even TikTok's integrated with Google, and obviously YouTube's always been a thing. And so yeah, this posting this amount of content aids so much, because now when people, if you have no content, you search the park, the website may come up or some TripAdvisor link will come up. But now sharing this amount of content, people are searching. Now you're seeing TikTok videos, you're seeing YouTube videos. Especially YouTube Shorts is a big thing now, and so that's even coming up in searches. So now if I'm searching up like, hey, I want to go to X water park, now I'm seeing these videos that come up where the park looks either one like this insane travel destination, or two like the most fun place on earth. And so guests are now clicking on that. They're watching the content. They're making their decision now. Their buying power is like heavily dependent on, are other influencers sharing, or is the park sharing content? And
Right.
you can only get so much on a website. So it's definitely been it's a huge transformation, especially for a lot of these parks that they were never on YouTube. Now we get them on YouTube, and now there's so much more like SEO anytime they're searching on any browser.
I love that. I do have one question.
Yeah.
When you're on the ride and you're like recording yourself, and I'm sorry, this is just something that I was thinking about the other night. I'm like, how are you holding a camera? Or is it a drone? I don't know. Maybe you can't tell me that. If that's a secret, if that's a trade secret, you can't tell me. But like, I spent the entire evening going, how is this happening?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. It's this 360 camera. So, the lenses are like on each side and the selfie stick's in the middle. So
Oh,
whether I extend the selfie stick or not, because the camera lenses are like fish-eyed on each side, you can't actually see the selfie stick. It's like perfectly stitched out.
it's cool.
It looks like a drone is following me, yeah,
Yeah.
but it's really, yes, I am holding a camera.
Okay. Cause I was like,
Yeah.
how is this happening?
And sometimes I'm going down multiple times with different angles. So then people are like, wait, how is this filmed? Like it almost looks unreal, but yeah, it's really just, the AI edits out the selfie stick and
Yeah. Well, what's cool too is, you know, um, it's very cinematic when you have those different angles and you're telling the story. You have all of this information that you're getting from the camera and from what's happening because you're on the ride, you're having a good time. Sometimes it's scary. What I really appreciate like that authenticity of you being on the rides and having the experience that people are going to have when they're there. And I think that kind of brings me to one of my next questions, which is around, you're doing this very, for lack of a better word, cinematic approach to what it's going to be like when you're visiting these parks. But within the parks, what are they doing? Because I know operations is something that you've gotten yourself really deep into the park operations because of the work that you're doing. You're helping them in many ways with their marketing and their operations. So I guess what I'm curious about is, what are you seeing being done differently in the parks that are maybe doing this type of marketing? Are we seeing any changes in how parks are being developed to accommodate this for people like you or just families that want to also capture the moments in this way? We're going to take a quick moment because conversations like this just don't happen by accident. Our Live with Sondra series brand partner, Water Technology Inc., is helping operators around the world turn vision into fully realized aquatic experiences. From early concept to master planning to design, engineering, and project execution, their team brings together architects, engineers, designers to build environments that are intentional, immersive, and built to perform. What I love about WTI is this: they don't just design water parks, they design how people experience them. Every detail is thought through, from guest flow to water quality to the emotional connection a space creates. Because great experiences don't happen by accident, they're engineered. So whether you're building something new or reimagined, this is the level of thinking that separates good from unforgettable. You can learn more about WTI at WTIworld.com. All right, let's get back into it.
for sure. Yeah, the coolest thing is that social media is now going hand in hand with the guest experience in the biggest way is like in setting guest expectations. So a lot of the times parks will have a lot of pain points of their guests, like negative feedback from guests. And a lot of the times that comes from a guest thinking they're going to get one thing when they show up. And then when they get there, it's completely different. Um, And so social media allows us to set those expectations beforehand. So they know exactly what the experience is going to be like before they even arrive. So then we're seeing a lot of that kind of go away. And then on top of that, too, it also acts as a great kind of case study builder
Sure.
where now we're able to read hundreds of comments of people's experiences. Or, hey, if we're posting about a specific ride or specific food item, we're now able to see, like, hey, these are people's real thoughts. And we can tell that they're real clicking on the profile and we're seeing, hey, this is someone locally who's been to the park, or they're commenting like, I was just there last week and I tried the new elote fries or whatever it is. And, I thought the portions were smaller or whatever it might be. Right. And so then the park's able to take that and build a better guest experience. So that's been like the biggest impact. And sometimes it's like an example of this is I work with a park that was just recently acquired, and they'd always allowed you to bring a cooler in. Like that was the rule since it opened, and the new ownership group came in and was like, yeah, if you have a season pass, you can bring a small cooler, but they don't allow those big coolers anymore. And so I was like, okay, maybe we need to address this on social media, because there was a lot of kind of hate comments floating around in Facebook groups and online.
Sure.
And so we shared content being like, hey, you can't bring this in, but look how the food and beverage has been elevated. And so it did kind of two things. That obviously educated the guests like, hey, this is a new policy. It did upset a lot of people, but now the guests weren't showing up and being like with their coolers and like, hey, you can't bring that in. It's a new rule. We're able to set the precedent beforehand and that expectation, and showcase here are all the changes. For example, new ownership, this is everything that's changed, or here's what's new in 2025 or 2026, to kind of align the guest experience, so you're not having any of that miscommunication or that expectation of the
Sure.
guests. That's
No, I love that, because then it becomes also part of your marketing, right?
yeah,
You can address the guest concern. So somebody could probably even just like go through all of the reviews and get all of the ideas for things that they would need from that alone, right?
yeah,
Just looking at, what do your guests want to know? What are they upset about? Sometimes those things I say this to my parks all the time. What your guest is saying is a gift,
for sure.
right? And especially if you take it and use it the way that you're using it.
Yeah, 100%. And it also allows like for education. So like this goes hand in hand with like building like in-park revenue or like opportunities for guests to spend money. Like a lot of times maybe they didn't even know that this new food item existed, or they didn't know that this specific family 4-pack that you're offering existed. Now we're creating content on it, and they're learning about these things or specific events or really anything within the park that we're promoting. It usually goes, I'll get a list from the leadership team that like lists out like, here's everything we're looking to promote in our marketing this year. And a lot of times it's new food items, new events, new cabanas or whatever's new that year. And we're now able to educate the guests before they come. Like, hey, here's stuff that's new. And now that puts in their brain, they can go spend more money. So and actually another park that also does allow outside food that I work with, it was the same thing. Their food and beverage is so good because they have to compete with people bringing in their own food, but the guests don't know that. So
Sure.
only the guests that spend money and they try the food, they're like, okay, this is actually really good. Even when I was there, I was like, whoa, this is incredible. And so what do? We shot content now, educating the guests like, hey, because we allow you guys to bring your food in, this is actually really good because we have to compete with you. And, it's stuff that like, when I heard the owner tell me that, I was like, if I'm a guest and I hear that, I'm going to go spend money and go buy the food now. I'm not going to bring my own food because you just sold me on your food from that little comment. So we're able to do a lot of things like that and educate the guests and bring to life like what the leadership team is very proud of in their park. Just like when I go through like the initial starting process of asking all these questions to learn, like, what are they really proud of? What is their, best ride? What the food, whatever the best part of their experience. And we're able to kind of exploit that on social media and bring it to everybody.
I love that. Well, I know that this next generation, I've been in this industry a long time, but this next generation is very much about the experience, not just the rides, but the food being part of the experience. And we're seeing more and more the demand for like elevated levels of that experience, especially with food.
For sure.
And that's where I'm curious, are you seeing a lot of that in water parks right now, or do you feel like that's something that we need to see more of?
1,000%. I think in the US, it's 100% stuff we need to see more of. I recently was in Southeast Asia visiting parks, and in Thailand specifically, and in Bali. those are big tourist markets. So the same way like how I brought up the park has to compete with the people bringing in their own food, out there they have to compete with every other tourist attraction in the area. So
Sure.
where in the US it may just be a local water park, right? They're not necessarily competing with any local attractions. So in Thailand, they're competing with and in Bali, like the beach clubs or the super nice hotels, or if there's zip lining or ATVing or whatever other experiences there are. So they have to make the water park experience so good. So when people are on vacation, they want to go visit. And so that's why when you look at like the top water parks in the world, when it comes to like TripAdvisor or the world rankings list, they're all out there. And so what I realized going to these parks is they don't necessarily have the tallest, longest, biggest, record-breaking attraction. Where in the US, it's very like, hey, let's build, and specifically North America, let's build the tallest and the biggest from a marketing play. And while that's awesome, these parks have the number one titles out here without having to do that. And so they really focus on that elevated experience and really, I saw some parks that are capping attendance because they don't want the wait times to be too long, or they're really focused on like the layout of the park and how what's the experience from when you enter the gate to when you leave, or to when you're on a slide to when you're just lounging by a pool, or if you're at a bar. Like they've kind of mastered everything, and they're so like genuinely like they just nerd out over the guest experience. Versus in the US, I feel like since it was the start of the industry over here, some of these parks have just been operating the same way for so long. And I think that now what we're seeing in the US is that all these newer properties that are coming up, they're really succeeding because they're now building these more resort style and less like, hey, let's just build the tallest, longest towers. Which I don't get me wrong, I'm a water slide nerd and I want that, but
Sure.
I think there has to be a balance, right? And if
Yeah.
you can have both, I think that's where you win. And I think the US could outrank those numbers in Southeast Asia simply because they can have the great attraction, but also that great experience.
It's interesting in the ticketing space that I'm in, there's this conversation that's happening right now about we shouldn't even be charging admission in the US.
Interesting.
Which is interesting, but I pause a little bit on that because I think from what you're saying, I think part of why they're having to reduce the prices and do those things is because we're not moving in that direction.
Right.
Kind of like we were having a conversation earlier today that there's some parks like somebody's going to have to die before that changes,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Which is not how it should be. And this is
Right.
why we're having these kind of conversations on this show and with you. And I really appreciate you being here because, what is that thing that you think is happening in our parks right now that just has to die? Like that idea that's still there, an old idea that's got to go.
Ooh, yeah. I think the biggest thing, at least with all the parks I work with on a consulting front, they I feel like in the industry, the GMs have been around for so long and they've been running these parks for, maybe it's 20 plus years, 30 plus years, and they love what they do, right? The GMs that I think are succeeding really well are the ones, and I'm not just saying this because they work with me, are the ones that are open to listening to the younger generation, and saying, hey, I understand that that's not my expertise, but I understand that that's something we need. And so when that's the case, you see a lot more change in the park. You see a lot more, you're open to more ideas
Yeah.
versus some of these older parks that have just been running the same way over and over again. It's kind of like if it's not broke, don't fix
Right.
it. Like they're going with that mentality, which is great. I'm sure that may still work. But if we want to see like exponential growth in a property here in the US, like they really do need to kind of just look at it in that lens. And so I see the parks that are succeeding, even if they are those parks that kind of started small and grew throughout the years, they're now hiring younger talent or fresh, new eyes, and they're open to these more modernized ideas, and they're not kind of just cookie cutter operating, which is not, I don't think cookie cutter operating is necessarily bad.
Well, there's a lot of institutional knowledge in that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that we need. It's like some things shouldn't be fixed because they're working really
Yeah,
great. But I
exactly.
totally get what you're saying.
Yeah. So I think that's a huge, that's what I'm seeing. And obviously that's like with social media, right? Maybe
Sure.
before, the marketing strategy has been like, hey, let's go spend money. I have heard parks that they're throwing money like to the Weather Channel to like promote them and put them in the commercials and things
Right.
like that. And it's like, that's great. Maybe that cookie cutter way still works, but some of the parks that are, okay, let's allocate some of our marketing budget to these more modernized ideas. Okay, now we're reaching different people and we're able to build these case studies and do different things. Same thing when it comes to like food and beverage, or even just in the park operation itself, like really talking about the idea of the guest experience not having to do with the slides specifically, like the actual rides, is also something new. And so it's really just like adapting these kind of new, more modernized ideologies. And then two, also just like, I think just keeping an open mind and seeing what's out in the industry. What are the other parks doing? I think if you're involved in the industry, I feel like you can learn a lot from other operators and from what their winnings and what's not working for them. And even just, Waterpark Day is a great example of that at IAPA, right?
Yeah.
Literally everybody had great feedback from there because they just came there and they just learned new ideas.
Right.
And I think if you're always involved in things like that and you're open to new ideas, even if it's just implementing small changes, I think that's where the parks are going to start to succeed more.
I think so too. Well, and you said something that was interesting. They're promoting on the Weather Channel, but that's not necessarily where their customer is, right? Like, who watches the Weather Channel anymore?
Right. No one. I mean,
I'm
not my generation, at least. I
right.
don't.
Well, I mean, I know some 85-year-olds that do, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That's not where
Right.
your guest is.
Right. Right.
Your guest is where you're talking about on social media, on YouTube,
For sure.
and 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 I think that's something I appreciate what you said about some of the old ways of doing things 100%. I even see that in the difference between the parks that we see growing their revenue and the ones that aren't are innovating,
Yeah.
you know? I have one park took on this wild idea and then ended up having to build another dozen cabanas and 3 more food stands, right? Because
Yeah.
they're innovating and they're seeing that when they innovate, they're able to change the way that they're doing business and even grow the business. Because I believe all of these parks, even the old ones, they can still grow.
For sure.
We don't got to eliminate
Yeah.
admission.
One of my mentors is, I don't know if you know Mark Moore. He's in the water park industry, but he said something that like really stuck out. He's like, we're going to try something one year. If it works, great. If it doesn't, we're just going to move on and we don't try.
Yeah.
But he's like, at least we're going to try. And so when I heard that, I was like, oh, cool. So he's open to all these out of the box, crazy ideas and he'll give it a shot. Like a lot of times I think it's kind of like, oh, that's, yeah, maybe we don't know. Like they're kind of like on the edge of something and then they don't give it the shot. And so when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's very interesting kind of ideology. I think that would work really well if a lot of parks like started kind of adapting that. Obviously, not going overboard or crazy like with what ideas are coming on, but even just even if it's just a small implemental change or some new idea, or even just listening internally to what the staff is seeing, like talking to your lifeguards, like they're the ones interacting with the guests the most and they're hearing all this feedback. Or like sometimes the GM is kind of more of an overview, or and maybe is not even climbing up the slide towers. And so I think I think it's just like being open to trying something. If it doesn't work, like realize like, okay, I at least gave it a try, right? And
And especially when we're talking how we're connecting with the guest, giving things a try. I mean, just try it, right? Like
right.
it's all just on the internet. It's like you said early on, do it. Even if it's not the best thing, if it's better than nothing,
Yeah.
right? People can still find you. There are going to be people who watch that. That was actually one of the challenges I had when I started this show. My mentor said, just go live
Yeah.
every day, right? And I'm like, I can't do that. But he said, even if it's bad, it'll get better.
For sure.
And you have to start.
Yeah.
These parks just have to start.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's kind of saying of like, just try it. Regardless, you'll learn something. I feel like that applies everywhere, not only just in the attractions, but just with everything. And I feel like that's where change actually happens and where you learn, right?
Yeah.
And with social media specifically, like what I mentioned before is like every day you're not posting is like a missed opportunity. It's a missed opportunity and like a lot of opportunity to learn. Like not only, hey, did this post work? Should we do this type of content again? But also like, hey, did the guests resonate with this? What are the comments? What is the feedback? Like you could be having that feedback every single day if you're sharing content, right? Or it's a missed opportunity for someone to share to a friend, like, hey, we need to visit, or to another employee, you should come work here, whatever it is, right? I think it all has to do with just starting, just doing something. And like I said, it doesn't have to be great. It can just it's better to post something than nothing at all.
Yeah, and you're gonna get better at it.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think this is such thoughtful and great advice because for me, who I am following are mom travelers and people who are telling you how you can make the most of these experiences. So we know it works. The park doesn't even have to believe it works. They just have to do it because we know it works because we see it
Yeah.
happening through these other channels. Well, I actually have some rapid fire questions for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which I think will be fun.
Yeah.
But first, I have to tell you, we have one thing in common that I haven't mentioned to you. I've also been in a canine bite suit.
Oh, really?
Yes. When I was a kid, my friend's dad was like a handler for canine dogs. I was like
Okay.
16. He was like, "Hey, Sondra, you want to put the suit on?" Luckily, it was before people were recording things and putting it on the internet.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know about your experience. I mean, because I was
Yeah.
a 16-year-old, I could still feel the pressure of the dog.
Oh,
For
really?
sure.
Okay.
Could you?
No, I honestly could feel nothing,
Oh,
but I was like so scared beforehand. Like
Yep.
the anticipation building up to it, like I was like
it's
freaking
scary.
out. And then when it happened, I was like, oh, like, okay. Like yeah, with the suit on, you don't feel it. But I obviously, like, I can imagine like a real scenario, like
The
how
suits
crazy that
might.
is.
This was a drug dog.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
what the technical term is, like a drug sniffing dog, and he had been trained. And my friend's dad had all girls too, like my dad. So
Oh,
I
okay.
was always at their house, and I knew the dog. So I thought, oh, it won't be a big deal. And he said, "You want to put the suit on?" And I'm sure the suits have improved since the late 90s, but I could still
Wow.
feel
Yeah, yeah.
but I also played paintball.
Oh,
So
okay,
I was a
okay.
little more open, at,
Yeah,
at
yeah.
that age. That's how I got in the industry. I was playing paintball,
Really?
ran a laser tag facility. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
in the late 90s.
That's a lot of fun.
And so for me, I was always up for things like that when I was young. So I just thought that was funny
Yeah, yeah.
that I don't know anybody else who's ever put a suit on.
Yeah, is honestly probably one of the most like things I would have never expected to ever do. Doing social media, and then that opportunity came up. I was like, okay, this is cool content, I guess. But yeah, it was cool to experience that.
Hey, I watched it.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's the thing. You never know
right,
like what people are going to watch
for sure,
and what resonates with them.
right.
Right. So just a couple of quick questions. What is like one tool or workflow or something that you cannot live without?
Ooh, I mean, obviously, like I feel like everybody's tool right now is ChatGPT. Like that's huge for me. Um, that helps out a lot. But in terms of like my physical content creation, like I love the 360 cameras. I love shooting on drones. So really, it's just like I don't know. The iPhone is probably like my one, like when it comes to shooting, like I film a lot of content on there.
Really?
Yeah. So,
I'm an Android user, so
oh no, I have to leave now. Yeah,
that's what everybody says.
that's crazy. Yeah. It's 2026.
Yeah, I run a tech company.
Maybe if you had an iPhone.
All right, we're not going to go there. Where's Tiffany when we need her? My sister Tiffany. I don't know if you met her at Waterpark.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she's like a strong advocate for Android. So
Oh,
we'll have to tell her you said
okay. I'm gonna have some debates with her.
that. All right, here's question number 2, rapid fire. Flow rider or pickleball on a stressful day? Which one?
Ooh, I love both, but I'm gonna have to go with Flow Rider.
Flow rider?
Yeah, I could do that all day, every day, like, and never get bored of it. And
So,
pickleball as well, but like I just love being in the water.
so my husband just said to me last week, he was like, we should take up pickleball. Is it really that cool?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And where I live in Austin, it's like the capital of pickleball. I don't know if they say in the world or in the US, but it's a very social sport. So it's a lot of fun. Like, especially when I'm working all day, like I'm usually just hibernated, like
Sure.
in the co-working place, just working. And so then it's nice to get out and actually see humans and play and be competitive. And so I come from a tennis background too. I used to play a lot of tennis. And so it's definitely a lot of fun.
All right, I might have to take that up.
It's a great sport.
What is one destination that you haven't filmed yet that you want to film?
Ooh, I definitely want to go to China. So there's a park there. It's called Chimelong Ocean Kingdom. And they have some insane water slides that they just opened. So that's like probably number one on my bucket list. And then there's also just some crazy parks in mainland China that I haven't been to, because I've been to Hong Kong and Macau, but I've never gone like deep into like some of the crazy stuff. So definitely China is like up there.
Yeah, that's cool. And who needs to be paying the most attention to the shifts that are happening in the industry right now? Like some of the things we've talked about, but who do you think this information is for? Is it somebody working inside of these organizations? Is it
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to number one, the GM of any property or the leadership teams, because I think it's whoever the decision maker is who's also the kind of passion driver. So the one who's like passion driven of like, hey, I'm here for the guests and to build this incredible guest experience, and realizing that this kind of aids that. And I was also been able to make that decision. So if it's an owner, if it's an operator, I think that that's the biggest. It's not necessarily, hey, the director of marketing or or anyone in marketing, that this obviously applies to that.
sure?
But I do think that it's realizing how this goes hand in hand with the guest experience. And so anyone who's directly involved of like making those calls, I feel like is the go-to person that should realize both from a like a social media standpoint, but also from a guest experience standpoint, like what I mentioned, how the experience is now changing less from the water slides and more to the destination as a whole.
So they're being very thoughtful about how that entire experience is coming together for the guests. Well, hey, thank you for being here.
Yeah, no, thank you for
Yeah.
having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. I really appreciate you coming out here sharing. I think this is like gold.
I appreciate that.
And
Thank
I
you.
and I hope that, everybody listening really takes some of this and implements it. And, you know, I know you're available to help in the event that they need insights on how to do that.
For sure. Yeah. I appreciate it. This has been an awesome conversation.
Yeah. Thanks, Alex.
All from Waterpark Day.
Yeah, all from Waterpark
I like
Day.
it. Yeah.
And everybody should go.
Yeah. No, I think so. I think it was awesome.
It was a great day.
For sure.
All right. Well, I'll see you soon.
See you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. We're entering a new era, an era where destinations are designed for emotion, engineered for scale, measured for revenue, and amplified globally. The parks that thrive won't be the loudest, they'll be the most intentional. Because experience is no longer a decoration, it's a strategy. And strategy doesn't stop at marketing, it extends into infrastructure, into engineering, into partners that help you choose what's possible to build. That's why conversations like today and firms like Water Technology Inc., who are engineering the next generation of aquatic experiences, matter. The future isn't just filmed, it's built. To every operator, engineer, marketer, and visionary watching, the next decade of the industry is being designed right now. Make sure you're building it on purpose. I'm Sondra, and this is Live. If this conversation resonated with you, subscribe to Live with Sondra. We bring together leaders building the future of destination experiences. Follow, share, and stay in the room.